Double traps. Michael Hudson had never believed in freedom. Not the way most people did. To him, freedom wasn't about flags or speeches, it was about leverage. Who held it? Who didn't? And now, leverage was closing around his throat. It began with a phone call. No name on the screen. Just a number Michael recognized from years ago, one he thought he had erased from his life. He hesitated before answering, but hesitation was pointless. Raven, a man's voice drawled low and gravelly. Been a long time. Michael's jaw tightened. I told you never to use this number. Relax. I just wanted to remind you that favors don't vanish. You owe us. And we've decided it's time to collect. Michael said nothing. His silence was answer enough. Tomorrow. Midnight. Pier 19. You'll get the details in person. Don't be late. The line went dead. Zara was furious when he told her. You said you were out with them, she snapped, pacing across the glow of her monitors. Her fingers drummed against the desk, restless. That crew doesn't let anyone out. You know that. They think you're a tool, Michael, a scalpel they pick up when they need precision. And now they're coming back for blood. Michael rubbed his temples. I don't have a choice. You always have a choice. No, he said quietly. Not this time. Because the crew on the other end of that call wasn't just anyone. It was Vargas, an old contact with ties to the Russian mob, a man who had once bailed Michael out of debt in exchange for a few jobs. Back then Michael had been young, desperate, willing to bend. But every favor had a cost, and Vargas's debts never expired. At Pier 19 the Hudson River smelled of diesel and salt. Cargo containers loomed like silent giants, shadows shifting in the mist. Vargas was waiting, dressed in an expensive coat, his thick frame flanked by two men with faces carved from stone. His smile was thin, sharp as glass. Raven, he greeted. The man, the myth. Still alive, still pretty. I was worried the feds had clipped your wings. Michael didn't respond. He hated the name in Vargas's mouth, hated how casual it sounded. Vargas spread his arms. Relax. I'm not your enemy. I just need a little help. One job. That's all. Michael narrowed his eyes. Define little. Vargas chuckled. An armored truck. Tomorrow night. Carrying something valuable. Nothing you can't handle. Michael's stomach nodded. He had built his reputation on surgical precision, clean jobs that left no chaos behind. But an armored truck job? That was brute force, noise, risk. Exactly the kind of mess Raven avoided. I don't do smash and grabs, Michael said flatly. You do when I say you do. Vargas's smile vanished. His eyes went cold. Remember who pulled you out of that hole in Queens? Remember who kept the sharks from cutting you into pieces? You owe me. And if you walk away now, he tilted his head toward the river. Well, the water's cold this time of year. The threat was clear. Michael said nothing. Silence again was its own answer. The next day at the office he could barely focus on the spreadsheets glowing on his monitor. Numbers blurred into meaningless patterns. His tie felt like a noose. At lunch Elena called. Her voice was bright, warm. Hey stranger. You free tonight? Thought maybe we could catch that movie you mentioned. Michael hesitated, heart twisting. He wanted to say yes. He wanted to vanish into her world for just one evening, pretend he wasn't Raven, pretend there was no Vargas, no FBI, no mask. But he heard Vargas's voice in his head, sharp as broken glass. You owe me. I can't tonight, he said softly. Work. There was a pause just long enough to sting. Then Elena laughed lightly, covering it. All right. Rain check. When the call ended, Michael stared at his reflection in the darkened computer screen. He barely recognized the man staring back. That night, Zara confronted him again. You walk into this, you're finished, she said. Her eyes, usually steady, flickered with something like fear. The feds are already circling. Mercer's breathing down your neck. And now Vargas wants you to pull a job that'll paint a bullseye on your back. It's suicide. Michael met her gaze. What do you want me to do? Say no? Vargas doesn't take no. Then disappear, Zara urged. Now. Tonight. I can burn your name, wipe your accounts, set you up somewhere new. South America, Eastern Europe. You'd vanish. Michael almost laughed. And what about Elena? Zara blinked. The teacher? Are you serious? Michael didn't answer. He didn't need to. Zara groaned, pinching the bridge of her nose. You're letting feelings make you stupid. That's not you, Michael. That's not Raven. For the first time, Michael wondered if Zara was wrong. Maybe Raven wasn't him at all. Maybe Raven was the mask and Michael, the real Michael, was clawing his way back through cracks Elena had opened. But that didn't matter. Not now. Now there was only Vargas. The armored truck job unfolded like a nightmare. Michael stood in an alley as the truck rolled down the street, its headlights cutting through the fog. Vargas's men were already in place, heavy weapons hidden beneath coats. The plan was simple: block the road, force the truck to stop, overwhelm the guards. It was chaos in the making. As the ambush unfolded, gunshots, shouts, tires screeching, Michael felt his chest tighten. This wasn't precision. This wasn't Raven. This was a trap. And he realized too late, it wasn't Vargas's trap alone. From the corner of his eye, he caught movement. Unmarked vans sliding into the street, men in tactical gear pouring out, guns raised. FBI. Mercer had been waiting. Michael dove for cover as the alley erupted in violence. Bullets sparked against metal, shouts echoing through the night. Vargas's men scattered, returning fire. Through the chaos, Michael saw Mercer himself, crouched behind a van, eyes scanning the street. Even in the haze of gunfire, Michael felt their gazes lock. Hunter and hunted, face to face for the first time. Then Michael moved. He slipped into the shadows, heart pounding, mask burning hot against his skin. The double trap had sprung, Vargas pulling him in, Mercer closing the jaws. And in that moment, Michael knew. The line he had been walking so carefully had finally snapped. Betrayal. The city was still humming from the echoes of the failed armored truck heist. News outlets called it an attempted robbery by unknown suspects, though rumors spread quickly. Some said it was mob work. Others whispered about an international crew. Only one man in New York knew the truth: Daniel Mercer. And Mercer knew exactly whose shadow he had seen vanish into the night. Raven. But Mercer also knew something else. Raven wasn't just a rumor. He was flesh and blood. And Mercer was closer than ever. Michael sat in his apartment with the lights off, staring at the gloves still stained with faint smudges of dirt from the alley. His hands shook, though not from fear. From rage. Vargas had set him up. The job had been a lure, a stage for the FBI to swoop in and pin everything on him. Vargas didn't care if Michael walked away alive, as long as the debt was cleared one way or another. And yet, what unsettled Michael more than Vargas was the memory of Mercer's eyes. That steady gaze in the chaos. The certainty. Mercer wasn't chasing a myth anymore. He was chasing him. Michael closed the hidden compartment and leaned against the wall, exhausted. He wanted to call Elena, to hear her voice, to ground himself in something real. But he couldn't. Not tonight. Instead he called Zara. "You barely made it out," she said, voice sharp through the encrypted line. "You're slipping, Michael. You're letting yourself get cornered." "I know," he muttered. "No, you don't. You think you can balance this forever, but you can't. And now it's worse. Someone tipped Vargas off. Think about it, how else did the FBI know where to be?" Michael froze. "You're saying?" "I'm saying there's a leak. Someone close to you. Someone feeding information." The words hit him like ice water. He had spent years living in shadows, trusting no one but Zara. If she was right, then the circle was smaller than a noose. 2 days later, the answer came crashing down. Michael had agreed to meet Elena at a quiet diner near her school. He told himself it was to protect the mask, to make sure she hadn't seen anything that could endanger them both. But deep down he just wanted to see her. She smiled when he arrived, though her eyes held something distant. "You're late," she teased gently. "Work," he said, sliding into the booth. For a while they talked, books, her students, the changing season. But Michael's instincts, honed sharper than blades, told him something was wrong. Her laughter felt strained, her hands fidgeted against the coffee cup. Finally he asked, "Elena, what is it?" She hesitated, then sighed. "A man came to see me." Michael's chest tightened. "What man?" "FBI," she whispered. "Agent Mercer." The world seemed to tilt. "He asked about you," Elena continued. "Said your name came up in an investigation. He showed me a photo. A blurry one, but, Michael, it looked like you." Michael's pulse thundered in his ears. Mercer. Always one step closer. "What did you tell him?" Michael asked, voice barely steady. "I told him I didn't know anything," she said quickly. "Because I don't." "But," she trailed off, searching his face. "Michael, why would the FBI be looking at you? Who are you really?" The question cut deeper than any knife. Michael forced a smile, but it felt brittle. "Just an accountant," he said softly. But her eyes told him she didn't believe it. Not anymore. That night, Michael confronted Zara. "You think Elena talked?" he demanded. Zara raised an eyebrow. "I think you're in denial." She's the variable you didn't control. The one person who sees you outside the mask. Of course Mercer would find her. And if he didn't, he will again. Michael's fists clenched. She wouldn't betray me. Zara leaned back in her chair, studying him. Maybe not intentionally. But betrayal doesn't always come with malice. Sometimes it comes with fear. And fear is just as deadly. Michael wanted to argue, but the words caught in his throat. He remembered Elena's eyes at the diner, the mixture of love and suspicion, fear and longing. He had pulled her into his world without meaning to, and now she was standing on the edge of it, staring into the abyss. Meanwhile, at the FBI office, Mercer pinned a photo of Elena to his board. She's the key, he told Marissa. Hudson's careful, but everyone slips. If Raven's real and if Hudson is him, then this woman is the thread we pull. Marissa frowned. Careful. If you spook her too much, we lose her. Or worse, we lose him. Mercer's eyes hardened. I don't intend to spook her. I intend to save her. The betrayal came a week later. Michael had just finished a job, a small one, almost beneath Raven's standards, but necessary to pay off Vargas and keep him at bay. He slipped back into his apartment, adrenaline still humming when he saw the envelope. It lay on his kitchen table, plain white, no return address. He opened it cautiously. Inside was a single photograph. Raven. Mid-heist, mask half-slipped, eyes visible. And scrawled across the bottom in neat handwriting. She knows. Michael's blood ran cold. It wasn't Vargas. It wasn't Mercer. It was someone closer. Someone who wanted him to break. He thought of Elena. Zara. Of the vanishingly small circle of people who knew anything at all. Someone had betrayed him. And if he didn't find out who soon, it wouldn't just be his mask that shattered. It would be his entire life. Battle with the shadow. Michael had always known the day would come. The day Raven and Michael Hudson could no longer coexist, when the mask would meet the man and everything in between would collapse. That day began not with Vargas, not with Elena, not even with Zara. It began with Mercer. The first sign was the silence. Michael had grown used to the background hum of his double life. Zara's late-night calls, Vargas's veiled threats, the distant sound of sirens echoing across the city. But tonight, as he walked home from the office, the streets felt too quiet. His instincts screamed. He took a different route, cutting through narrow alleys, his eyes scanning every reflection in store windows, every shadow that lingered too long. He saw nothing. And yet he felt it. The weight of a gaze. By the time he reached his apartment building, he knew. Mercer was closing in. Inside, Zara was waiting. You were followed, she said before he even spoke. Michael dropped his briefcase on the table. I didn't see anyone. That's because he's better than you think. Mercer isn't just some Fed chasing shadows. He studied you. He knows your patterns. Michael poured a glass of water, though his hands trembled faintly. So what do you suggest? Zara's eyes flashed. End it. Tonight. You go to him before he comes to you. Michael froze. You mean kill him? She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Michael stared into the glass, watching the water ripple with each tiny shake of his hand. Killing Vargas had always been on the table. Vargas was a criminal, a parasite. But Mercer? Mercer was law. Flawed, relentless law, but law nonetheless. To kill him would be to step fully into the abyss, to accept Raven as more than a mask. And yet, deep down, Michael knew, if he didn't confront Mercer now, Mercer would tear apart everything he had left. The confrontation came 2 nights later, not by Michael's choice but by Mercer's. It was in a derelict subway station, long abandoned, a place Raven had used once before as a staging ground. Michael arrived to find the gates already open, the echo of footsteps drifting through the tunnels. Raven, Mercer's voice carried through the dark. Come. Certain. Or should I say Michael Hudson? Michael froze. The name rang in the air like a bullet casing hitting the floor. Mercer stepped into the glow of a single flickering bulb. No gun drawn, no backup visible. Just him. His eyes locked onto Michael with the intensity of a man who had hunted too long to doubt anymore. You've been careful, Mercer said. But not careful enough. Michael's mouth was dry. You shouldn't be here alone. Mercer tilted his head. Neither should you. For a moment, the silence between them was louder than the city above. 2 men staring at each other across the gulf of choices that had brought them here. Finally, Michael spoke. Why me, Mercer? Why hunt me so hard? There are 1,000 criminals in this city. What makes Raven different? Mercer's jaw tightened. Because you're not just a criminal. You're a contradiction. Clean jobs, no chaos, no unnecessary blood. A thief who moves like a ghost. And yet, his eyes narrowed. You hide in plain sight. That makes you dangerous. The most dangerous kind of criminal, the kind people might even admire. Michael almost laughed. Admire? You think I do this for admiration? Mercer stepped closer. Then why? Why keep living two lives? Why risk the teacher, the office, the mask? Why not disappear? Michael hesitated. He could lie. He could deflect. But something in Mercer's eyes, sharp, unflinching, almost human, made him answer truthfully. Because part of me wants to be Michael Hudson, he said quietly. And part of me can't stop being Raven. Mercer's expression flickered, just for a heartbeat. Then it hardened again. That's why I have to stop you. The fight was inevitable. Mercer lunged first, surprising Michael with his speed. Michael sidestepped, the movement instinctual, honed by years of jobs gone wrong. A struggle erupted in the shadows. Fists, elbows, the scrape of boots against concrete. Mercer wasn't just an agent with a badge. He was trained, efficient, relentless. Every strike was calculated to subdue, to pin, to control. But Michael had something Mercer didn't: desperation. They crashed into a wall, Michael's mask half torn away, Mercer's grip iron tight. Give it up. Mercer growled. This ends tonight. Michael slammed his forehead into Mercer's nose, breaking the hold. Blood spattered, but Mercer barely flinched. He came again, harder, faster. For long minutes, they were locked in brutal silence. Two men fighting not just each other but what they represented. Law versus shadow. Order versus contradiction. Finally, Michael landed a blow that staggered Mercer back against the wall. Both men were gasping now, drenched in sweat and blood. Michael raised his fist, and froze. He could finish it. And Mercer here and now. But in Mercer's eyes, even through the pain, there was something Michael hadn't expected. Not just hatred. Recognition. Mercer whispered hoarse. You don't want this life. I can see it. You want out. Michael's hand trembled. For the first time, someone had spoken the truth he buried deepest. And in that hesitation, Mercer moved. In a blur, Michael found himself on the ground, Mercer's gun pressed cold against his temple. This is over, Mercer said. Michael closed his eyes, heartbeat hammering in his ears. But then, from the shadows, a sharp voice cut through the silence. Not tonight. Czar. A shot rang out. The bulb overhead shattered. Darkness swallowed the station. When Michael scrambled back to his feet, Mercer was gone, dragged into the night, retreating with fury and unfinished purpose. Zara grabbed his arm. We need to move. Now. Michael staggered after her, breath ragged. The confrontation was over, but the war had only begun. Later, alone in his apartment, Michael stared at his reflection in the mirror. His face was bruised, his mask cracked. For the first time, he wondered if Mercer was right. Maybe he didn't want this life. Maybe Raven wasn't freedom. Maybe Raven was the prison. And if so, then who was Michael Hudson? The question echoed in the silence long after the city outside had gone to sleep. Unmasking. The subway fight hadn't left Michael with bruises. It had left him with doubts. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Mercer's face, bloodied, relentless, but human. A man who believed in something larger than himself. A man who, in one fleeting second, seemed to understand Michael better than he understood himself. But doubt was dangerous. Doubt could get him killed. The city didn't pause for Michael's crisis. Vargas's calls grew more urgent, demanding repayment for a debt that felt like quicksand. Zara urged him to plan a new job, something big, something definitive. And Elena was slipping further from him. They hadn't spoken since the diner. He could feel her withdrawing, a shadow of suspicion widening between them. That suspicion came to a head one late afternoon. Michael arrived home to find her waiting at his door, pale and tense, clutching a folder. We need to talk, she said. Inside, she placed the folder on his table. Photos spilled out, surveillance shots, grainy images from the heist, one particularly sharp frame of Raven vaulting a security fence. Michael's heart plummeted. Elena, he whispered. She looked at him, tears in her eyes. Tell me this isn't you. For a moment he couldn't breathe. The world tilted, everything fragile in his double life collapsing into her gaze. Elena, he began, but his voice cracked. I never wanted you to see this. She stepped back. So it's true. He closed his eyes. There was no point in lying anymore. Yes. The word broke something in the air. She stumbled back, hands trembling. All this time. Michael, I thought I knew you. I thought you were. Her voice faltered. What are you? Some kind of thief? Criminal? Monster? Michael's chest ached. I'm still me. The man who walks you to school, the man who listens when you talk about your students, the man who... He stopped. But yes, I'm also Raven. The silence stretched. Finally she whispered, why? He almost laughed, bitter, hollow. At first it was death. Then survival. Then, I don't know anymore. Maybe I kept going because it was the only place I felt in control. Her eyes filled with tears. Control? You call this control? Living two lives until one kills the other? Elena. She shook her head, grabbing her coat. I can't do this. I don't even know if I should protect you anymore. The FBI came to me, Michael. Mercer came to me. His blood ran cold. What did you tell him? Her lip quivered. Nothing. But maybe I should have. And then she was gone, the door slamming like a verdict. Hours later, Zara arrived, sharp and impatient. You told her, didn't you? She demanded. Michael slumped in a chair. She found out. Zara cursed under her breath. I warned you. She's a weakness. And now she's leverage. Mercer will use her to box you in. Vargas will use her to keep you obedient. Everyone will use her except you. Michael's eyes hardened. She's not leverage. She's the only thing that makes me want to crawl out of this mess. Zara leaned closer, voice low and cold. Then she's also the thing that will destroy you. Meanwhile, Mercer sat in his office, studying the same photos Elena had shown Michael. She knows, Marissa said. Your visit rattled her. If Raven is Hudson, she's the weak link. Mercer shook his head. She's not weak. She's conflicted. There's a difference. Conflicted people make mistakes. Mercer stared at the board at Michael's face. So do agents. For the first time, he felt a weight in his chest. Not victory, not vindication, but the uneasy burden of what he was about to do. Because if he wanted to end Raven, he'd have to tear Michael Hudson's life apart. And Elena would be the collateral. 2 nights later, it all came crashing together. Michael returned home late, stepping into the apartment cautiously. Something felt off. The air smelled faintly of gun oil. He moved quickly, pulling the pistol from its hidden compartment, but he was too late. Don't. Mercer's voice. Michael turned slowly. Mercer stood in the shadows of his living room, gun leveled, eyes steady. Michael Hudson, Mercer said quietly. You're under arrest. Michael's pulse roared. How did you? Elena, Mercer said almost gently. She didn't betray you. Not really. But she hesitated. That was enough. Michael's chest constricted. Elena hadn't spoken, but she had faltered, and Mercer, ever the hunter, had seen the opening. I don't want to hurt you, Mercer said. But this ends now. No more masks. No more shadows. Michael stood frozen, heart pounding. The gun aimed at him was nothing compared to the devastation in those words. Because this wasn't just the end of Raven. It was the end of Michael Hudson. And then, before either man could move, the window shattered. Gunfire erupted. Vargas's men stormed the apartment. Chaos exploded in an instant. Bullets tearing through walls, Mercer diving for cover, Michael rolling across the floor. The war had arrived at his doorstep, and every mask, every secret, every lie had just shattered. Reckoning. The apartment reeked of gunpowder, fear, and inevitability. Shattered glass crunched under Michael's boots as he slid behind the overturned coffee table, heart hammering in his chest. Vargas's men had come for him, Mercer had followed, and Elena, she was trapped somewhere in the middle, her life dangling on the edge like a candle in the wind. Michael's mind raced. Years of planning, precision, masks, and shadowed lives had led to this. The walls closing in, the city itself pressing down. He had always believed Raven could control everything, slip away unseen. Tonight the illusion was gone. Vargas shouted from the doorway, his massive frame filling the hallway. Raven. Or Hudson. It doesn't matter. Give me the bonds and your life is spared. Michael's eyes flicked to Mercer, who was crouched behind a kitchen counter, gun-trained, patience thin as wire. End this now, Hudson, Mercer growled. One wrong move and she dies. Elena. Michael felt her fear like a blade against his ribs. She wasn't supposed to be in this world. Not fully. Not in the crossfire of masks and shadows, debts and vendettas. But she was here. And she was the reason the rules he had lived by for years no longer applied. He thought fast. Raven always thought 2 steps ahead. Always accounted for angles others ignored. He gripped the handgun tucked in his jacket, shifting his weight. The first thing was distraction. Noise, chaos, movement, the 3 constants he could manipulate. He kicked a chair into Vargas's path. It tumbled across the floor with a deafening crash. Vargas cursed, momentarily blinded by the chaos. Michael rolled to the side, firing a precise shot into a nearby wall to ricochet toward another assailant. Mercer's voice barked, "Cover left. Don't let him flank you." Michael's chest rose and fell, muscles tense. The apartment was alive with violence, each movement a calculus of survival. But beneath the calculated precision, there was raw emotion. The need to protect Elena, the need to survive, the gnawing weight of every life he had manipulated over the years. Elena screamed. Michael turned just in time to see one of Vargas's men advancing toward her. Without thinking, Michael lunged, dragging her behind a doorframe. The bullet meant for her shattered the wall next to his head. Her eyes were wide, terror and shock mirrored in every feature. "Michael, what?" "No time," he said. He couldn't explain the double life now. Not in the middle of gunfire, not while Mercer had his finger on the trigger, not while Vargas's men closed in like predators. Explanation would come later. Survival came first. The apartment was shrinking. Every corner held a threat. Every shadow was a danger. Michael realized the truth that had been lurking all along. No matter how careful, no matter how precise, Raven could never exist in isolation. He had been balanced on a knife's edge, and now the edge was gone. Mercer moved. A flash of steel, a burst of movement. He fired. One of Vargas's men went down, convulsing across the kitchen floor. Another dove, but Raven intercepted, striking him with a calculated blow that sent him sprawling. Michael's chest heaved. Sweat dripped from his forehead. Every ounce of control he had clung to was slipping. And then stillness. Vargas stood in the center of the room, furious, calculating, trapped in his own arrogance. "So this is how it ends?" he growled. "No," Michael said. "This is how it changes." With one precise movement, he disarmed Vargas, pressed the barrel to the man's temple. For the first time in years, Raven and Michael were one. The mask and the man were inseparable. Vargas's eyes flicked to Elena. "Don't hurt her," he spat. "I won't," Michael said. "But you leave or this ends." Vargas hesitated. The threat in Michael's gaze, in the complete control he now wielded, was undeniable. With a final glare, Vargas backed away, motioning to his remaining men to retreat. Within moments, the apartment was silent except for heavy breaths, the echo of gunfire and distant sirens. Mercer lowered his weapon slowly, studying Michael. "You could have been arrested. You could have died tonight." "I know," Michael said, voice hoarse. "And maybe I deserved both." Mercer's eyes softened ever so slightly. "You've been running in shadows for years. Maybe it's time to see what happens when you step into the light." Michael looked at Elena. She was trembling but alive. Her hands were dirty from debris, but she was intact. Relief washed over him, sharp and consuming. Elena's voice was barely audible. "Michael, you?" "I'm here," he said, finally letting the mask slide for her. The vulnerability, the confession, the man beneath Raven, all exposed. "I'm here." She stepped forward, grasping his hand. "I don't understand any of it, but I'm not leaving." Michael exhaled, a long, shuddering breath. For the first time in years, the double life felt negotiable. Not gone, not safe, but balanced on a new axis. Love, survival, accountability. Vargas would return as he always did. The FBI would continue to chase shadows as they always did. But tonight, Michael Hudson had reclaimed a part of himself. Raven remained, yes, precise, dangerous, invisible to most, but tethered now by something stronger than fear, choice. And choice was power. Michael closed his eyes, listening to the city outside. For the first time he could hear the hum of life, not danger. A heartbeat. Not a countdown. Elena squeezed his hand. He looked at her, and for a fleeting moment the mask was gone entirely. Tomorrow the world would demand Raven again. Tomorrow Mercer would hunt, Vargas would scheme. But tonight, in this broken apartment, among shattered glass and smoke, Michael Hudson, Raven, could simply exist. And that was enough.